Hi, it's Steve Hargadon. This is a special event. It's a group brainstorm around a topic that I'm particularly interested in, a unifying educational profile service. I'm going to start by giving sort of a quick overview, and while I do, I'm going to pull the document up in a web tour. And I'll also put the link in. This is a Google document where I've made some notes, and I'll put the link into the chat. And you're welcome to open that document now yourself. And do be thoughtful about your editing so that it don't change the whole title of the document. But the whole point is to collaborate. So please feel free to put some notes in there. So the idea here is that I sit on this committee with that Karen Cator leads at the Department of Education and the Office of Educational Technology, and it's on online communities of practice. And the idea is to look at how to help educators become more familiar with and use these online communities that are available. We are going to be doing a really fun event in August. This is kind of an announcement, but I don't believe it's the first announcement, called Connected Educators Month. And through the whole month, there will be a terrific set of activities across all kinds of existing communities, and with great special guests, all in an attempt to help people understand the value of educators connecting with each other through these communities. I have responsibility for the first 2 days, a big kickoff, so I'm really excited about it. I'm doing guest speakers and the like. And, well, that's funny, the number of users is doubled in the document. I wonder if that's because I'm doing it in the web tour. And at the same time, I'm also going to run, probably the second week in August, a Learning 2.0 virtual conference. That's like the Global Education Conference, but all on sort of how teaching and learning are changing because of the internet. That we'll probably announce next week, and it should be really, really fun. So part of all of these discussions has been that Karen kind of consistently brings up this question of, should there be an educational profile site, a single education-oriented place where you can fill in a profile about who you are and what you do in education, and that then sort of exists at a meta level on top of all of these other communities, so that you can indicate what other communities you are a part of, or sort of, in the brainstorm phase, you have links to RSS feeds, maybe links to some other services and social media services, so that you can kind of indicate where you play. And this would be kind of your personal profile. Now, so as I opened this up in conversation on my blog and emailed out about it, I got an incredibly robust response. I think there were 17 or 18 very long comments on the blog, and then I received a sort of an equivalent amount through email. So I've tried to put those thoughts into this document, and I want to go through it. But I also want to give you a chance to really interact here and steer me differently if you feel like that's needed. So I want to tell you a little bit about how you might do that. If you look at the top of the participant window, you'll see that there are some icons, a smiley face, a person with a clock, that indicates you're leaving the room and going away. And then there's one that's, if you hover over it, says raise hand. So that's how you would raise your hand to ask for the microphone. And I've currently set the microphone to only allow 2 people to have the mic at any given point in time. So, but I've given you all microphone privileges. If you want to raise your hand and take the mic, you'll raise your hand, I'll call on you, and then you click on the talk button at the top left. And if you think you might like to do that, this would be a really good time to go up to that microphone with the red star and run the audio setup wizard just to make sure that your microphone is working correctly or configured correctly. So I'm actually going to change this outline here. Just one second. See if for some reason I can't delete when I'm in it. I wonder if that's a limitation of it, Maria. But I'm going to skip that possible features because I actually have that further down below. But I want to talk about sort of what 4 kind of main ideas I got back related to the structure of this network. And Maria, are you not able to edit either, or you just can't edit from the web tour?
Can't
which is
edit
fine.
from the web tour.
Edit. Okay, so I'll just let others edit, and I'll kind of keep it up here on the screen. Okay, so there were 4 basic types that I got back, and Emily, thanks for your comment. I definitely, would somebody add vendor access to the list of other kind of questions that's down at the bottom? Because there are a lot of times when vendors actually play a really good role, and individuals who work for vendors can come in and participate without putting on their vendor hat. So I think it's worth kind of looking at that fully. So there were 4 types. One was just an aggregator. So this is sort of the top meta level profile that links to all of the other communities you might be in. And examples for me of this were the me.edu.au site in Australia, although it had slightly more functionality. Academia.edu, about.me. And this seems to me to be sort of the simplest version, but also maybe by its simplicity it makes it easier to sign up and use, but maybe by its simplicity it makes it less compelling. The second idea was the aggregator plus a push version, two-way information flow. And this one I actually think is too complicated to talk about tonight, but it was an interesting idea, which was this is a simple profile plus an aggregator of where the content that you're creating or producing on other sites, and links to that content, and that content showing up through RSS feeds, but an ability to also interact with those communities from that meta, unifying profile site, which would mean a fair amount of working on a programming level with each of the communities to allow contributions back without actually logging into the communities. So I'll make an executive decision here and say it may be more complex than we can talk about tonight, but if you want to push back on that, let me know. The third was sort of the full service vision. And that's kind of like what Learn Central was, which is now no longer in existence. It's very much what EdWeb currently is. You could argue that LinkedIn and Facebook, somebody might want to add Facebook there, that they are also those kinds of services. Apparently TCEA has a new site. ConnectedEducators.org, I think, is an attempt as part of this Department of Ed contracting process to produce a similar thing. And then there were a lot of articles yesterday about this site out of the UK called PES. And so that would have forum discussions, groups, document, and content sharing, and a calendar, and other things. EdWeb.net, thank you. Merlot, yes. Merlot with a focus on document and content sharing for sure, and communities. Let's see. Overlay models like OER glue. So Maria, I'm going to let you take the mic in just 1 second. The final topic, the final category for me was a full service but topic specific. So that would be like Classroom 2.0 or English Companion Ning. So it's the full set of services, but it is only around a specific topic. So my inclination at this point would be to say that the productive conversation is not the topic specific full service, because the idea was to kind of aggregate above that. And it's not the aggregator two-way push because of the complexity of the program. So we're really looking at the difference between some kind of a lightweight aggregator on top that points to all of these other places, or something much more full service like a Learn Central or an EdWeb or a LinkedIn, which obviously carries a fair amount of complexity and also raises the question of who should actually be doing that. So Maria, tell us about OER glue.
OER glue is from it's basically, I call it the overlay because it goes over the existing sites, but you have a registration on it, and if you do when you go on the site, you have this overlay of extra meta information and communication. So it's kind of on the site, let's say if you're visiting someone's community, and you see what other people from OER Glue have done with it and visited. And you can also pull things together into, say, a lesson plan that uses content from other instances or communities. So it's a very open model, and it's not a push, and it's not an aggregator version. It's kind of a more open architecture, if it makes sense.
Oh boy, that is a really interesting idea. So if I've heard you correctly, this service overlays other sites that you would go to. So it sort of sits like a Firefox extension, so sitting in a column to the left-hand side of your browser window that gives you access to the meta level while you're still interacting at a local level with the specific network or community or social service. I would think that's worth adding as its own category here. So that would give us a fifth category. But Marie, I'll let you make that choice. I would either put it in the aggregator version as a way of doing that, or I would put it as a separate category. And I think I'm comfortable with either. So go ahead and just put that in if you would. Okay, so I'm really curious right off the bat, that description of 4 plus the 1 from Maria. And let's see if that's in yet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tax your brains here a little. Let's do a poll. And I'm going to do a polling type that does A, B, C, D, E. That's for one of the 5 options. Unfortunately, in this Google Doc, the outlining is automatic, so it's not going to let us change them here. But I'm interested in your first impression of what you would like most of those 5 options. And so if it's Roman 1, Roman small 1, the aggregator version, select A. If it's Roman 2, the aggregator and push, you would select B. And let's make sure that poll is up. Are you seeing the poll? Why am I not seeing the poll? Oh, there it is. Okay, so the 4th button over in the participant window, if you hover over it, it will give you the A, B, C, D, or E. So let's have you pick one of those that's the most attractive to you. So it's either A, the aggregator only, B would be the aggregator that does a 2-way information push that I'm suggesting would be very hard for us to talk about tonight. 3 would be the aggregator as an overlay. So while you're looking at other sites, it's providing information in a column to the left or something similar. D would be full service, right? Everything like an EdWeb or a LinkedIn or a Facebook. And then E would be full service but specialized, which essentially means that you don't think we need a top-level aggregator. So I'm curious as to what people think. I'm probably, not because I'm trying to sway your votes, but just to give you an idea that I'm voting, I'm going to vote A, which is I'm most interested personally in just the aggregator version. So Gordon's asking, could we restate the net purpose outcome for the community site? Is the ed profile self-promotion advertisement to allow people orgs to find persons to connect to? Yes, and I think we're going to drill down, Gordon. It's a good question. We'll drill down some more on that. So this is sort of your first initial impression. But the idea would be that, at least from my standpoint, and we'll flesh this out, that there are a limited number of educators who are actually using these multiple services for connecting and communicating, and that it makes it hard to actually find at a higher level others like you and where the communities are, where the conversations are around the things that you're interested in. So Steve Hargadon creates a profile at some level in this service that says I'm interested in educational technology and social media, in the future of education in U.S. history, and it's in using Maria's social math concept. Somehow in the background surfaces for me other people that I could connect to, but also provides me with a vanity URL and a page where people could find out about me. And dating services. Right, so the Connected Educators website. So the interesting thing about Connected Educators, it is another example of one of these sites like Learn Central or EdWeb. Happens to be sponsored by the Department of Ed. But my personal concern is that that's not going to has not, and will not attract enough people to it to actually serve as an overarching site. But yeah, so if I had in my vision, if I had a profile page on the Connected Educators website, I would then link to that as one of the several links I put in my meta profile that would indicate that that's one place that I play. Okay, so in your first take assessment, only one of us believed in the Aggregator version, that's me. Nobody agreed in the push, but I probably impacted that. 5 people indicated they were interested in the overlay, so that would be sort of a meta level but with an overlay. 6 people were interested in the full service, so that actually gets the most votes so far. And then nobody was in 7 now. Nobody was interested in the last one, but again, I probably prejudiced that. Okay, so I'm interested for those of you who voted for the full service. Is there not an existing network right now that does everything you'd want to do? So my question is sort of hinting at the idea that, like Connected Educators, if we build another full service site, is there a reason that people would all go to that rather than somewhere else? Or are you saying it's not actually that important that everybody be aggregated under one large tent? So anybody who wants to can grab the microphone, or you can put a note in the chat. That says, I don't really want another place to have to go in order to find out what is going on in education. Couldn't we just agree to gather in one place, Google Plus or LinkedIn? Peggy thinks option D actually covers the E, which is the targeted full service. Beth, none of the services has 100% of us participating, and that may actually be okay. Again, feel free to just hit the talk button and go, or put a note in the chat. But are we okay with having a number of places and not having a single profile somewhere? You could argue that about.me actually represents either side. I don't use the about.me site for myself, but it's had some real popularity as a single place to kind of build a higher level profile. Go ahead, Beth.
So I put in Google Plus or LinkedIn, or it doesn't matter which one, but something that already exists. My concern is that people that aren't using social networking in education are probably not going to, no matter how simple you make the site. So it doesn't make sense to start a new site when there are so many other sites that exist. I don't see a need for a brand new infrastructure to bring people together. And I understand there's a lot of concern about educators' presence online, especially those in public schools across the nation. And then also we get down to the participants, which I realize is coming up, but we've got a whole different wide group of people here, a variety from those that are in public schools in the United States, those that are in other schools in the United States, those that are consulting like I do within various schools in the United States, those that are from international communities. I think that's going to make a difference on what we can put together.
So Beth, I want to clarify really quickly. So if I'm thinking about an aggregator service, kind of top level, it's not another place for conversation, but it's a place to indicate where you're holding your conversations. If I'm thinking about the full service, then what you're telling me is we don't need another full service. Are you also feeling that the aggregator doesn't have value?
I guess I see value in the aggregator, but if someone is already part of something else, are they going to join that? I subscribe to all kinds of different stuff, and I, for weird reasons, do it through Facebook. And that's where I find all of my, all of the current links, not all, but many current links that I look at by following professional organizations on Facebook. So an aggregator would be a great thing to have, but then is it going to be broken down into various topics or various grade levels or various informal versus formal education, various countries? I guess it would need to be broken down pretty, or else be tagged very well for me to find what I'm looking for.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Good comments. Maria.
Well, I am somewhat with Beth on that, in that I would like to use my existing power tools. Facebook, with all the words it has a lot of power tools in the back end for connections and for similarity seeking. However, all the services have a fatal flaw of design, namely, we don't control them. We are not their owners. So we can't tell the Facebook what to do. And or Google, they may listen if it's a large enough community, but then they may not. And what is needed is not just aggregation as much, but curation. So communities, we've been having this conversation with Mass Future people for a couple of years now. So communities need to curate their content. Science bloggers, that's another community of science educators and science popularizers. They have this powerful system for curating content. And again, what they need is human ways of doing it, with some machine tools and some human tools. And what's problematic with tools like Google Plus and Facebook and so on, their architecture do not allow for sub-communities to curate their own content. So that's the biggest kind of flaw there, that there is no levels of control. Does it make sense at all?
I think it makes sense. In part, what I'm also hearing from you is that there's a vulnerability to be depending on a single service. I mean, I guess I hadn't thought this through, but it does seem like the aggregator concept gives you a little bit of independence of the variety of services by allowing you to switch as services come and go. I was laughing this weekend because I gave a talk, and I went back to a talk I gave 3 years ago about social media and education, and I was stunned to see that even 3 years ago I was actually talking MySpace and not Facebook. Is there anybody else who wants to make the argument for the full service? I'd love to hear any fuller descriptions about what you would want and the like, especially in including document sharing, resource sharing, lesson plan sharing. These have been in the news a lot in the last week, and I'm curious as to how you feel that as a particular service maps against your own needs. Rob, go ahead.
So the one part of that full service that caught my attention more than the others was the forums part, because it's nice to have a closed system, somewhat closed, I suppose, where there can just be little small conversations about topics that relate to that education piece. I guess it's not as important to me with document and content sharing, but the forums and interaction with other people, other than just having to me, but maybe you can explain the aggregator more, and I don't understand it, but it seems to me that if it's just an aggregator, the opportunities to interact with other people might not be there. So I'm just wondering about those two different pieces.
So thanks, Rob. Good comment. So again, I don't know that my definition of the aggregator should be the definition we use today, but in my mind it was giving us a chance to indicate where I am holding those conversations. So let's say I'm at Maria's Math 2.0 community. So I can actually point to that community and say that this is one of the communities that I actively participate in. And that would, if somebody saw my tags for math and social media, then they could look at my communities and actually go look and see what those conversations were. So that was kind of my idea. One of the interesting questions about forums is, let's say that you have 7 million teachers in the U.S. and many, many more outside. Is there reality to the need for smaller communities, and does the aggregator, by pointing to other communities, provide a nice service of not trying to be the one place, but then it gets too large? And I would make the argument Classroom 2.0 is probably too large right now for really good conversation to take place. And so the division into smaller communities. So in the aggregator view, no, you wouldn't hold the forums there. In the full service view, yes, like EdWeb, you create all kinds of smaller communities around that. Lynette, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm just speaking from Australia. I hope you can hear me okay. As you know, when we met in Australia, I had this bee in my bonnet about teachers being able to peer support one another. And I think that I would like to see or hear from you how you might imagine this is an extension of forums. But it would be a great way to break down the isolation across states, across huge geographical distances in our case, and the isolation that teachers have in classrooms of feeling like they're facing problems alone. So I'd love to see if that could be a possibility somewhere in this model that you're coming up with.
So Lynette, where do you currently go online to hold those kind of conversations now?
Good question. As I'm not a practicing teacher, I don't hold them. I hold them face to face. I coach teachers and mentor them personally. So, but I think that in a lot of cases they do a much better job speaking to each other rather than to me. And I'd like to create a situation where they can do that. That's got that privacy built into it. So that's the model that I'm working on at the moment. But that model is very isolated from the rest of what you're talking about, or that would require profiles and people to share a little bit of their background, or which level, as you've written down further, which level they're at, or what subjects they're interested in. And I see it going right from early educators, early childhood educators, right up to in our country TAFE, or vocational educators and university teachers as well.
So one thing that's sort of intriguing about what you've just described is, let's say that I'm interested in Math 2.0 again, and I put in my communities that I go to, and if I could also tag those communities as being around a specific topic, then the unifying profile site could also serve as a directory of social networks or online communities, because you could pull from that data to then say, okay, I want to click on the tag for Math 2.0 communities, and it would show places where people are holding conversations there. Maria, did you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to comment on that, and we talked with that about with some librarians. Actually, librarians will rule the world in this century, and if there are librarians here, kudos to you, because librarians have been very helpful in that conversation. So, so basically, everything has to be tagged, and then the system needs to do some mathematics on the tags. So, for example, if I go to this event, or let's say Future of Education or Math Future event, I should be able to say, oh, I love this event, and then based on who also liked it, based on the people who attended and people who were interested, and also based on the tags, it should serve me other events that are just like that. Basically say, oh, you will also be interested in other things. Right now, short of asking Steve personally, there is no way of doing it. And Steve, there is too few of you, for everybody to just ask you what other things are interesting.
I really like that description of kind of how the back end would work. I'm curious, Maria, what did you vote for?
I couldn't find the vote. When you voted, I somehow missed it. And I can't quite connect what this taxonomy you have to my dream world. So I probably wouldn't vote even if I didn't miss it. Sorry.
That's really funny. Okay, so I want to kind of move on because there are other questions that I think we can ask that will help inform the discussion we've just had. But before we do so, I'm giving everybody permissions here on the whiteboard. And to the left of the whiteboard, you can see some icons. You'll see the letter A. And then if you click on it, again, you'll see that it gives you either A as a paragraph, text as a paragraph, or just text as a line. Click on text as a line. And if you would, in this on this page, if you would just click somewhere on the page and type in your thoughts right now. What have you liked about the conversation so far? What ideas have you liked? What's the biggest thing you're thinking about at this moment with regard to some kind of a profile service? So I'm going to click on it and set the example here and say aggregating community-specific tags is a cool idea. I hadn't thought of that, but I do think if you have some way of people indicating what sandboxes they're playing in, and they can tag that you could aggregate that into information about where you might find good conversations. And again, anybody can take the mic if they would prefer to say something by mic, or put your note in the chat. So to build a community, there needs to be a way to interact with each other in the system. And I guess that's really good feedback because I've sort of been assuming we want to push that interaction out to the local networks that already exist or could be created. And Rob, I think you're feeling like that should happen within this particular system. Seamless, a connection that's easy, not exhausting. Overcoming local control by connecting to diverse international something. Tools for collaborating, not just sharing. There was a question about how the overlay related to the aggregator, and I think Maria's overlay idea is in fact a way of manifesting the aggregator. Rather than having it be a separate, well, maybe in addition to being a separate service with its own web page, it also serves the function of allowing you to interact with it while you are doing other things in the web browser, particularly with other communities. Collaborating platform in conjunction with resource storage and sharing. You know, if there's somebody who feels strongly about the need that you don't feel you either feel a strong need to have resource sharing, or you feel like the services you're using don't provide that, or if they do provide it and you like it, I'd love for somebody to talk a little bit about lesson sharing, resource sharing, and the ways in which you would use document sharing. Because my experience with Learn Central was that it was not the primary feature that people came to Learn Central for, but I'd love to hear the counter argument. Would anybody like to make that? Peggy, you spent a fair amount of time in Learn Central. So did you, Maria. How often did you use the document sharing? Not once, Maria says. Peggy, what about you? So I'm not sure that's representative. You didn't use the blog at all either, correct? I don't want to indicate that's representative. I'd love to hear from somebody who does use document sharing within one of their communities and kind of give us a sense of its value and how you like it, how you would like that service to be served up if it were a service. Bremner, please feel free to put the link in the chat if you'd like us to check it out. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we have a very small district, and we're sharing documents and so forth, sharing lessons, and even in a small district, it's very challenging for us to get used to a technology where we've got veteran teachers who for 20 years everything has been okay the way it is, and a minority of teachers willing to develop new ways of sharing and breaking out of our individual classrooms and realizing the professional learning community nature of the world is really appropriate. So there's still that challenge of that initial getting beyond the tipping point.
Thanks for that, Jeff. That was informative. How many in your district?
We have about 100 teachers. And we're known as a very forward-thinking district, one-to-one laptop program at the middle school where I teach. I also teach at San Francisco State and teach teachers there, and find the same kind of issue there. I see somebody's highlighted my badges to confirm professional development. It's one of the things that has occurred to me is one of the uses of the kinds of things we're talking about here is a way for us to, it was kind of a sideline, is a way for us to confirm what we're doing with our own time, and then perhaps convincing our districts that we should be paid as teachers, as professionals, to do this kind of thing, do this kind of learning community, online learning community, as part of our what we're paid to do.
Sorry, Jeff, I was getting the link back so I could go back to the Google Doc. Well, that's so funny because I actually end up being sort of a fairly vocal opponent to badging. I'm worried about the complexity and the number of badges and the like, but there is a really natural tie between the educator profile and badging. So I find myself wanting to like badges more in order to justify my interest in the unifying profile. Okay, so this has really been helpful. Did somebody
final comment on that? Badges are so much an accepted part of gaming and game development and leveling up amongst our students. And Common Sense Media has adopted it with their recent curriculum. And why not we as teachers start to lead the way in terms of some other ways that we can model appropriate behavior as learners?
Jeff, I love it, and I don't want to necessarily take us down a path of conversation that's not the focus for tonight. So I'll stop there. But I sense that, and I sense your authentic interest, and we'll have if you want, you can listen to the interview I did with Mark Sermon where I gave my opinion on it, so I don't need to bore anybody with it now. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the doc, and let's move down here a little. Again, I think these questions will inform some of the other thinking that we're doing related to the larger question of what's needed. So my next question is, who is the audience? Is it everybody, including those who are currently connected? Is it the large percentage of educators who are not currently, oh, my volume's down, sorry. Should have gone, I didn't do that, I did it automatically. Hopefully that's better. Okay, so my next question is, who is the audience? Is it everybody, including those who are already connected in other networks? Is it educators, the large percentage of educators who are not using social media or communities right now? Is there a difference between K-12 and higher ed? And I got a very strong feedback from people. They didn't like the idea of learners being a part of this. And I'm kind of passionately interested in learners authentically interacting with teachers, and so I'm really curious about that and would love to hear from those of you who feel that students should not be involved. So feel free to either grab the mic or put a note in the chat. Who is our audience for this service, whether it's a limited aggregator or it's a full service network? Who do you want to be in it? And Peggy, I'm curious about your comment because that could be seen as an argument for an education-only service that's not Facebook or LinkedIn because it's not social networking. It's more of a directory or a database. Right, and I'm interested in, again, this is sort of blue sky, but I'm interested in the idea that there's this very long tail of interests, like Jim, forgetting his last name, Civil War Sally's dad, Jim Bigley, who does music in the Civil War. I would love for a student of any age to be able to connect with Jim around music in the Civil War. But so John, the answer is I was thinking of students of all ages, but somebody could respond with a breakdown if they felt like higher ed students was okay, but K-12 was not. Go ahead, Maria.
I am involved in several open education projects, and I'd like to bring into this some terminology from there, like peer-to-peer learning and co-production, so the peers and everybody as co-producers of learning, and open educational resources. So there are projects like Open Study, and on Open Study, students become teachers, and teachers may be there, and nobody knows on the internet if you are a dog, so people just something. But groups like Peer-to-Peer University don't make distinction between learners and teachers at all. I mean, there are different roles there, but then it's going to where something like a MOOC, for example, someone mentioned them, MOOC, massively online open course, so there can be 2,000 people there, and some are organizers, but they're also co-learners, right? So there are a lot of projects. I think we need to look at some existing ones. That's kind of the point I'm making, where learners and teachers commingle together.
Maria, I really appreciate you bringing that up because I think it's not too hard to envision a future in which there are an enormous number of opportunities for learning, from accredited courses to just somebody teaching something and giving a badge. And I do see the ability to tag and aggregate it at a high level being really valuable to accessing and finding those opportunities. I don't want to move off of the age. Oh, I wonder if I did. Were you not able to hear me? If I didn't have my mic on, my comment back, Maria, was that it's not too hard to visualize a future in which there are an enormous number of opportunities for learning, from accredited online courses to just somebody teaching in a MOOC, to all kinds of activities. And the aggregation to a higher level through tagging of those opportunities does seem to make an enormous amount of sense. And for me, that would be an argument for not having this boundary between learners and teachers. Emily has said a couple of times here, I think, a good comment, which is, does it make sense to start with one and then move to the next? Okay, so unless somebody else feels strongly about the age issue, and please do, I mean, please feel free to, if you feel strongly that students should not be here, I hope that you will feel comfortable making the case. We know Maria feels strongly that there should not be age limitations. So let's talk about lessons learned. So I'm really interested in where you feel you're having successful experiences with networking and community. And are there some lessons from those experiences that could inform our thinking about this as a project? So what have you really loved, and or what have you felt like has changed? And I'll start with a humility story just so people feel comfortable. I think Classroom 2.0 has changed, and while it provides a lot of really good services, the live events and the like, I feel as though we've sort of failed in the cultivating of conversation area, just because of the volume of people in the network, and also early on the encouragement of people to go other places for other conversation. But so I think that that's kind of a good lesson for me, is that size matters, and that if you get to the size of Classroom 2.0 or larger, that you need to have some way of breaking that down so that people can have more intimate experiences. So I'm going to turn my mic off and let anybody else who would like to grab the mic. You can see in the chat we're still on the age issue. So does anybody have an experience where they feel like they're really their needs are being met? Twitter, I think, for a lot of people is really filling a particular need. Other examples, or did anybody participate? Does anybody participate in EdWeb, or did you participate in Learn Central or me.edu.au, where you would want to describe some of the things you liked?
So this is Rob. So I think Twitter is certainly at the top for me. I do go in and out of EdTech Talk, the people that talk there, and meet up with them. There's a core group of people, I think, that meet there. And what makes that work? You just know that people are going to be there every week at a certain time, and that kind of does it. And I think that's what Twitter does for me as well, is I know there's certain people that will always be there when I'm on there, and so there's always somebody to interact with. So that's how that's working for me.
Rob, that's a great example, and intriguingly is a shift from the asynchronous value back to the synchronous value, where you actually know that by being in a certain place at a certain time, because of the quantities of everything that's going on, you're more likely to encounter people. Now, that had not occurred to me. I love it. Peggy, do you want to talk a little bit about EdWeb? Because EdWeb is a private commercial company doing social networking, sponsored by vendors, but they seem to be doing a lot of the things that we're talking about. And do you want to discuss sort of what you like about EdWeb? Oh, Peggy, you are the master without audio, so feel free to put anything in the chat that you would like about EdWeb. Twitter and Facebook are tops for someone. Go ahead, Maria.
I use EdWeb, and Peggy, I wish you had a microphone. I love to hear your thoughts. So EdWeb has pluses in that it created this, it has a nice way for separate communities to create their own thing. So for example, there is a game design community there, and it attracted enough people now that it's on topic, and kind of everybody's there, or not everybody of course, but enough people are there that it's useful for whoever is in game design in education. And that's a plus. However, the huge minus for me is that's why I don't put much content there, is you can't link things on EdWeb from outside because they are only visible with registration. And that's such a huge no-no for me, because I can't invite people to look at stuff. That I go there to take things, but I don't go there to give things, unfortunately.
Okay, good feedback. Emily, did you want to chime in? you're certainly welcome to, Emily. If you want to turn your microphone on, you all have microphone privileges. Just click on the talk button at the top left. Okay, so we're coming to the close to the close, and I did want to talk specifically about the actual pieces of the profile that you would be interested in having. And so if anybody, I put in here a list of possible things, your school, work, or other affiliation, grade levels, the subjects, your own personal interests. It could be biking, could be sharks, could be, you know, 5th grade history, U.S. history. Your geographical information, to the degree that you wanted to share where you are physically in the world. Links to the variety of communities or social media places that you would want to let people know sandboxes you play in. Services. These were services I thought that the profile could provide, one of which would be sort of social math or surfacing. Social math is this sort of behind-the-scenes algorithms that help surface connections for you, whether it's individuals or communities or topics. Vanity URL, so whatever the site is that you go to it and you have a page that's yours that you can give out and it shows that. We've talked about badges. Is there anything, we won't do the voting here, but is there anything else that you would want to be in this profile? If we're not talking about the fuller services like forum discussions and content sharing, if we're just talking about the profile piece, is there something that's missing from that list for you? Oh, your Skype address? Somebody wants to put that in. I can't actually edit while I'm sharing here, but if somebody wants to put that in, that would be great. Any thoughts around digital citizenship teaching beyond the common sense curriculum? I'll let people answer that in the chat. Okay, and then sort of if you do have a comment on what's in the actual profile, please feel free to put it in the chat now or to grab the mic, but I'm going to keep going here just in the interest of time. One of the interesting pieces of response I got back was from a couple of folks who felt like the issue wasn't providing another service or an aggregator, but just training of people to know where the existing resources are. And I thought that was a very good comment, although I still do favor this aggregator concept and could make a counter argument, but I thought it was a well-stated concern. Yeah, where does Edmodo fit into all of this? If anybody wants to let us know. Training for community moderators. That was another really good comment, that there's a need for helping in groups with smaller numbers, people to understand how you can actually help lead a community. And I think the Connected Educators Month coming up in August is going to address both of those first two issues. The third was the state laws that restrict educators from putting up information about themselves where students might connect with them online, and that's just one that's really hard for me. You know, my concern is that, not my concern, I'm so uncomfortable with restrictions on that kind of activity by teachers, I just don't even know how to respond to it. Should there be managed restricted memberships? One person emailed back that it should be handled at the state level, and membership should only be given to those who have passed the certification. And that was intriguing to me, in part because there are people who teach in private schools who don't go through the certification process, who still could be very valuable, and it certainly would cut out any students or prospective teachers. Webinars, there was an interest in having webinars get highlighted, and I thought that for me fits into the fuller service piece rather than the aggregator lightweight. And vendors, and so then the question of vendor participation, and Emily, I'm not sure if it was you who initially mentioned vendors, but I don't know if you still feel the same way, or if you want to make a case for not having vendors in the site, that would be worth hearing. And Emily says, suggest a group of teacher mentors. Emily, you think, go ahead, Emily, so I'll let you take the mic and answer either or both.
Hey, Steve, this is Emily Bigley. I'm in Pensacola, Florida. A couple of things about vendors. We all know the pros and cons of it. Vendors can offer a segue to teachers for an opportunity to use tools with kids that they may not normally have, especially in beta testing. I can see that there's an opportunity for vendors to come in and work with teachers directly, because so often as social entrepreneurs, they want teachers to be beta testers. On the downside of that, I see the ugly side of vendors coming in and snagging a trending topic, a trending need of teachers, and then they go off on their own and develop it and come back and sell it to teachers. In the end, it's always the kids that lose. So I have some pros and cons to that, and again, it would have to be the integrity of the community and the integrity of each community member to uphold that. Also, I did want to talk about teacherpreneurs. I think that not only do we need to have a section where I mentor teachers, I coach teachers, I sometimes often teach students face-to-face, but teachers are also my students. And I think it's extremely critical to offer voice to those of us who are mentoring teachers, coaching teachers, providing professional development, to share best practices, what doesn't work, and so forth. But also, on a third point, which I really didn't broach, and I broached earlier in the window, was somewhere in the ideas of document sharing, production work, there has to be some kind of onion layer for Creative Commons, so that whoever it is comfortable with whatever they're sharing, whether it's share it and don't remix it, share it. But those are just some of my out-the-gate thoughts.
Emily, thank you. Thanks for taking the mic, and thanks for addressing each of those. And good thoughts. And Creative Commons, I can't believe I didn't put that in the information about the full service, but clearly that makes a ton of sense. Okay, so we are in the final moment. What I want to do is to do two things. I'm going to go back and create a new page here, and you all have permissions to type again. It's the fourth icon down, the A icon, and look for the one that's just the A. Click on it, not the one with the lines. Or you can do the lines if you want to do a longer paragraph. But if you would put your final thoughts on this sheet, anything that you want to conclude, and I'm going to clear the poll, and I'm going to turn it into a yes/no. So I'm going to go to polling, yes, no. And my question is, do we keep thinking about this? Is this a topic worth continuing on? Certainly the responses to the blog post and the emails I've gotten would indicate that people care. How much do you care? How much should we keep talking about this? Yes, thumbs up. Oh, that's a great drawing. Who did that? Jeff, I think that's you, dude. You're scoring big points. Okay, so any final thoughts? Feel free to grab the microphone, put it in the chat, or to put it on the whiteboard. Final conclusions that you're having about how do we move forward, and how do we move forward if we do move forward? So implementation being the key, and that's definitely an important thought. And as I went through all of the notes and emails and the posts, I realized that there are services that in many cases it's the rollout and the building of community more than the features of the service that have impacted my use of them. Okay, so note here, this is worth pursuing. Spent months looking for people to chat about education reform. Please come to futureofeducation.com. We talk about that all the time. These are important issues. Gurus for moderating, and to you for coming. How will this group stay in touch and collaborate? Oh, that's a really good question. Well, in the Google Doc right now, anybody have a suggestion as to where we should keep holding this conversation? I can take responsibility for that and post it. I'll share the Google Doc link again. Let's see if that's what I've got in my buffer still. There it is. Yeah, we need the new system we're trying to build just to stay in touch. Well, certainly if you're a member of Classroom 2.0 or of futureofeducation.com, then you will get emails from me and I will post related to this. And then the Connected Educators Month coming up, I'm quite certain this will be a part of that conversation, and especially the Learning 2.0 virtual conference. So if you're not a member of one of my networks, just go to this site here and join one of the networks and you will get future information. Wait, I have an idea. Before we leave, and so it's still in the recording, I'm going to create a Mighty Bell site for this. Yeah, and I'll put the link in. So give me 2 seconds here. So Mighty Bell is Gina Bianchini's new project. Full disclosure is that I am consulting for her on this project. But if we create a space, it's a place for conversation and for collecting resources. And that is one place that we can be assured that people are there. So I'm going to create a new space. And it will be called Unifying Educational Profile. And here's the link. So please go ahead and join that Mighty Bell, and we'll keep the conversation going there as well. Okay, and if you have budgeted just an hour, please feel free to leave. There's no social conformance that requires that you stay. We're going to close off in a minute. I will post the recording link as soon as we're done with this session, so that it'll be on my blog post, and I'll put it in the Mighty Bell. And then we'll look forward to future discussions. So Emily, feel free to take the mic if you want to bring up your suggestion.
I guess what we're really thinking about is basically is design. So I don't know if you have any design folks at your fingertips, Stephen, or some type of design architects, because I know I've worked with some folks in the past who are really great at taking thinking ideas, but when you're talking about architectural design of networks and overlays, perhaps it's time to bring them in after some more brainstorming to see what type of architecture could be overlaid on a web page. Just a thought, just out of the blue.
It's a great thought, and I really loved Maria's concept there. So yes, I think that's a great idea. And Maria, I hope that we can stay in touch on this one. And thanks, Emily, for bringing it up. Okay, so in the interest of giving everybody an actual sort of stop moment, let's stop. We'll let you go. I'll turn off the recording, but everything will come up. Turn the recording off, but I'll post it and you can watch it again. Or if you want to, you can save the chat. You can do that in the full recording, or if you'd like, you can go up to File, Save, and save the chat right now. And it will save as a TXT file for you. Thanks, everybody. That was really informative. I feel like my thinking has been improved and stretched, and I really appreciate the chance to talk with all of you about it. And we'll look to see you in the Mighty Bell or in commenting in the Google Doc, and I'll put that Mighty Bell link in again. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Bremner. For those of you who are headed to ISTE, can't wait to see you. If you're not, do look up isteunplugged.com because we'll be streaming sessions Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and there'll be lots of fun things to watch if you're not going to be there. Okie doke. Thanks, everybody. I'll turn off the recording.